www.openstreetmap.com/hot. And please, yeah, you, as part of this webinar, you have to abide by the hot code of conduct, which in brief, it's being welcoming. You should be respectful and be careful in your words of phrasing and tone. And please, when we disagree, try to understand why we do disagree. Next slide, please. Yeah, and the program structure for this webinar is here. There will be a 1 hour panel discussion, where participants, please feel free to ask questions via the chat box, and when it's time for Q&As, you can unmute if you are comfortable to ask questions. And there will be an optional open forum for people to, yeah. But after, if there are more questions, there will be an extra 30 minutes to continue the discussion. And if you want to tweet or share about this webinar, you can use the hashtag OSM, hashtag mapping for equality, hashtag women in tech, and hashtag embrace equity. Thank you. Business line. Yeah. So at this moment, it will be my honor to transfer the mic to our moderator, Dr. Kwame Odame, who is a lecturer from the University of Education in Ghana. He's also a youth mapper, and I mean, he has been very instrumental in my own involvement in OSM. So yeah, but over to you, Dr. Odame, to start the section. And thank you, everyone. I hope we are all glued to our seat to take notes and to get interactive with the session. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Odame.
Sure. Thank you very much, Benedicta. I welcome each one of you to today's forum. As you already said, this is going to be a panel discussion on gender parity and issues relating to the OpenstreetMap community. And I would entreat each one of you to be vocal, ask as much questions as you have, and let's have a fruitful conversations. But before I do that, please, we have a panel of expert mappers and key figures within the OpenstreetMap community. And I would give them a moment to introduce themselves, just to give us a better perspective of who will be speaking during the panel discussion. I have with me Nico from the Asian community. I have Jacqueline from the Latin American community. And I have Stella from the African community. I don't know, but she speaks for the African community, and I'm sure it will be right about time for them to introduce themselves. So let's start with Nico. Nico, please, you have the microphone.
Hi, Dr. Kwame, and hi, Stella. Hi, everyone. Great. So I'll go ahead and introduce first. So I'm Nico. I'm currently the Regional Community Manager at the Open Mapping Hub Asia Pacific. Before HOT, I was really an active volunteer in the OSM Philippines ecosystem, and I founded MapBex, an LGBTQ organization that advocates to ensure that there's representation from lesbians, bisexuals, gays, trans women, men, and all genders in the rainbow in OpenstreetMap and other open mapping platforms. I'll pass it off to Jacqueline.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Amorim. I'm from Brazil, and today I'm presenting the women space in the OpenstreetMap. I'm an urban planning and master student in territorial planning or geography, and I'm past Mapeadores Livres in Brazil, champion of with mappers, and of past the Brazilian community, OpenstreetMap community, and I was intern in last year the humanitarian OpenstreetMap. Great for stay here today. Stay here today.
All right. Thank you very much. Stella, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline and Miko. Hi, everyone. I am Stella Marisna Kacharavamno. Point of correction, I don't speak for the African community. I
Oh,
am
my
program
apologies.
director everywhere Shimas, Youth
Sure.
Mappers. And yes, I am a board member for OSM Uganda, and I am a voting member for HOT. I'm yet to be there probably to speak for the African community in the future, not now. Yeah, but I'm glad to meet you all. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much for the warm introductions. But to set the foundation for the discussion, please remember that today's discussion is leveraged on celebrating women participation in the OSM community. But for me, today's discussion should be not only about women, but also celebrate women's achievement for all they have done. Take the opportunity to raise awareness about discrimination, particularly within the OSM community, and also look at actions that can be taken to drive and increase gender parity. And for the purpose of this discussion, our key issue for the conversation will be on the topic, exploring gender participation exploring women involvement within the OpenstreetMap through diverse lens. And without much ado, I would want us to start the ball rolling by exploring our participants and panelists' personal experiences about dealing with women and things they have done in championing the position of women within the OSM community. And so let me start with the only male among the participants. Perhaps if he identifies with that. Other than that, please do correct me. So Miko, please tell us, for the years you have spent within the OSM community, I want to find out what exactly has been your motivation in participating in the OSM community and not, leaving it ajar.
Thank you, Dr. Kame. So my motivation to really come into the OpenstreetMap community is, I think each and every one of us has an inspiring story behind how we get involved in the OSM. So my story, so my story begins is I started volunteering to map out the very first town that got hit by a very big typhoon in Asia. It's called Typhoon Haiyan. So I was able to work there, and so sad that there was no data. I needed to compile all the data from government officials, NGOs like Red Cross, UN, everything. So I was able to pull everything, and it was not really substantial on what you could use and what you could produce on Windows and produce maps. So after my project there, I really made sure and advocated that all my projects would need to have that report, need to be saved in OpenstreetMap, all data, except only projects that they agree on, that all the data or all the important data should be on OSM. Because what if I would appreciate it that if another mapper comes into that area, I know that there's that data that he could use to study, to research, to develop. And similarly, that would be very much appreciated. So it's very, very inspiring that my background is really in mapping. And eventually I went into identity crisis on what my role as a mapper began. So I came back to being an LGBT advocate, an HIV advocate, and that is where we definitely was able to push forward the use of maps in order to make our voices louder in the LGBT community, to know where are the safe spaces, etc. And I think it's a very, very, very interesting journey for me for OpenstreetMap, because linking it to our celebration right now with women, I would like to get this moment to thank all the women who have trained, who have become very patient in teaching me what the right tags are, what is the right routing or network mapping in OpenstreetMap and things like that. And I think that is one thing that is not being recognized much, that women are really very, very patient. The patience that usually there are other mappers that really want to teach you what to do, but I found the patience in women. All my mentors, all my friends, colleagues in OSM that I'm very close with are women, and I think that speaks why I really support the advocacies of, for example, women or women groups in OpenStreetMap, like Geo Ladies Philippines and Geo Chicas, etc. I always follow them. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I think your initial point makes sense. Always the need for data being the driving forces for which most of us would want to contribute to a good cause like this. But I would be interested to hear from Stella, what exactly has been her motivation within the years that she has contributed to the community. Stella.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dame. My motivation really to round it is that one, it comes from the background that I hold from my university degree. I joined or I learned about OpenStreetMap in 2015, and that was through the humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, a project that was being conducted in Uganda. My engagement really was realizing, or the realization that I understand that GIS is a pipeline to delivering optimal planning and reducing or cutting away waste of resources, and also providing for communities that really need those resources. So for me, that is like my in-depth driver as to why I joined this community and I wanted to be a part of it. I learned to map. I became an advanced mapper, but then I put most of my mapping on the pause, and my initiative became to encourage or to mobilize more participation among my fellows at the time when I joined Youth Mappers. So build kind of like a movement and encourage as many people, or spread the knowledge on why GIS is not a means in its end, but is a pipeline. And we need that kind of data for us to be able to provide or to create sustainable communities and projects and livelihoodness. So that's basically it for my driver. Yeah.
I agree. I so much agree with your tenants. How about you, Jacqueline?
Thank you, Doctor. I'm motivated participating in OpenStreetMap community is help the people in my country, in Brazil, is very cities with several problems, ambientals, is several problems. If the several people's vulnerable. So participating in OpenStreetMap community is possible help people, help planning others person for help people. So it's about new users training. So is new users training is possible for me in my group because it is a small person, a small girl. Participating in OpenStreetMap, participating in other communities cartography. So in OpenStreetMap is possible new girls participating is very good for me. It's reality in my country.
Oh.
That is.
Okay. All right. Interesting. And so if I get the lessons right, Nico's motivation has largely been on the need to gather more data and increase representation of people who are not found on the map. Stella also highlighted how her educational background and use of GIS as a tool has actually motivated her to rely heavily and also engage in OSM activity. And I also find that to be a common trait for most students I come across in my daily activity. And for Jacqueline, her basic drive is helping people out of needs, especially when disaster happens and there is no data. But Jacqueline, quickly, how long have you been engaging in OSM activities?
Make mapping with my university friends, university colleagues, and my university, my cities, in other cities, in several programs in my country, and my training other people's in my country, in the Latin American groups of is make mapping.
Okay, so how many years have you been mapping within the community? in your personal journey?
As making map about the buildings, the way is, I don't know. It repeats the question for me. Sorry.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. So on that note, tell me what do you think will be your biggest positive experience within your journey so far? Something you are so proud of
Yes.
that your effort and the effort of many people within the community has done that you want to celebrate and acknowledge yourself with?
My big experience is invite the others women participating on OpenstreetMap.
Okay.
Our experience is cool for me, but invite others girls, others women participating in the street map, and I'm searching the moments about women participating OpenstreetMap in my country and in Latin America. So in my actual search, I study about the street names women. It's very, very important to call others women about this, about their important participating women in the community. This is very, very important for me.
All right. Thank you so much. Stella, please tell us, how long have you been in the community?
For anybody who can do the math, I've been a part of the community since 2016 until now. I am still a member. Yeah, so we could say about 7 years. Yeah,
Sure.
that's
quite
that's how long.
impressive. So what would you say has been your biggest positive experience in what you do?
I would say I celebrate diversity in the OSM community. I think that's a big plus. The global mobilization and encouragement and welcoming spirit for all communities that wake up and want to be a part of or utilize OSM data. I think, and also the need to listen, like there is that room to listen and improve the OSM community at large. So yeah, I celebrate diversity. I think that's been a plus. As much as there is still more that needs to be done, we can still pause and say that's an achievement that we can recognize. And then also the volunteering spirit. I mean, most of the people who contribute to OpenstreetMap do not actually do this for, full-time jobs or unemployment, but people spend a minute of their time or a second of their time and create material and, spread it and share new ideas with other people in other communities, basically like motivate that growth. So the volunteering spirit in both terms of production and contribution of data and challenging, the growth of the community. I think for me, those are my biggest positive takeaways so far.
Sure, that's great. I'm sure most of us can identify with some of them. How about you, Miko? So yours will be a 2-in-1. How long and your biggest positive experience so far?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kwame. So I've been here, I think 2015, 2016, same with Stella. So we have the same birth year in OpenstreetMap. And yeah, I think one of the most memorable challenges I've encountered in OpenstreetMap is you encounter very condescending people as you grow. Like I think it's kind of it's somehow traumatizing, but somehow if you have that stomach and you have that strong will to get over their constructed. I mean, I feel it's based on how they frame stuff, but somehow you feel condescended with how they teach you and things like that. And I think that's one big challenge that I needed to overcome, because if I felt that during that time it really discouraged me to ask more questions, and then that pretty much somehow stopped my growth in learning more about OSM. The whole tagging system, I needed to learn it through a whole year. And this is the reality, that sometimes people are scared to ask. And we, as more advanced mappers, experienced mappers, hopefully we could create a new generation of mappers that they're not afraid to ask. And I think at that position right now, learning to know more people all over the world, all over, not just in Asia, in Africa, and in the US, in Europe. I mean, there are people that you might be afraid of, but amazingly, you find also people that are very, very loving, caring, and giving answers and things like that. So I feel those are the two takeaways I had with my experience in the OpenstreetMap community.
You still haven't shared your positive experience.
Positive experience. So remember I mentioned that I was starting the LGBT mapping organization before. So no one believed that I could do that. No, I was asking people for data. No one believed that, okay, one person can do that. And eventually we added a lot of data to OpenstreetMap. And maybe after a few months, we got the attention of these organizations that didn't believe us, that it would help that we put these spaces on the map. And then eventually they were the ones joining the mapathons. They wanted to add their safe spaces, their gender neutral toilets, their HIV testing centers. So it's really it feels that sometimes you doubt yourself, but just keep the ball rolling. Eventually we could get there. I think that's my positive experience.
Sure, we'll certainly get there. It's a whole journey, and we'll get there. In fact, Miko, you have a lot of fans in the message box. Marcella is reacting. All right, so Miko, since we are using this opportunity to celebrate women, I want to find out from your own personal experience, can you give us a sense of the state of women participation in OSM from your background? I mean, what has it been? I want to get a feel of the state of women participation from your end.
Okay, I'll try to do my best to share my observations in the past year.
Sure.
So most of this observations I'm going to provide comes from the Philippine context, and eventually I might be able to share more about the region I'm working in, like Asia Pacific. I was able to travel to different countries with OSM community, so I hope I could. And sorry, Shawan, if if I'm going to share stuff, etc. But so women specifically, like I feel that women are drivers that do not get the right recognition. Like State of the Map Asia 2022, the team was majorly women, and you need a really strong team to get to pull off a big conference like State of the Map Asia. When you visit other countries, it's women that are pretty much more there. Like I feel that there's a sense that it's all male dominated. But when you get to the ground, when you get to the in-person mapathons, you see that there's like more or less an equal distribution of male, women, and hopefully there are non-binary people there as well. Similarly, I feel that women are more shy to approach, or are more shy to bring up this things that they might feel that makes things uncomfortable. So I feel that they get worried sometimes and eventually don't speak up. But with the women that I've encountered, especially with my growth in OpenStreetMap, they not afraid to tell you, Miko, you're wrong, but let's do this. Miko, let's approach this challenge looking at this. Let's look for another way. I see that women's participation is there in OpenStreetMap, especially in Asia and the Pacific. But I feel it's not being brought up into that main stage. Yeah.
Okay.
Back to you.
No, but I want to ask further clarity. So you identify that at the lower level of the band, you have more women participating in OSM activities. So at the top, for every 10, so at the top level, for every 10 key officials, how many of them are likely to be women? Just to give us a better sense of women role in power parity and, you know.
Like women in government or in the OpenStreetMap?
No. I mean in OpenStreetMap.
Okay. Actually, it varies. It really varies per country. Like in the Philippines, out of 5, I might say 3 to 4 are women leading and doing the stuff behind everything else. So in another case, for example, Sri Lanka, you meet a lot of women backing up the organizing team, especially in events and things like that. Similarly, there are very strong women mentors in Bangladesh and India and tech. So I think these women are really there and really supporting each other in the community, but it's not them who are getting the shining star. I mean, we give recognition to them, but it's not enough. There needs to be something more. It needs to be something more. Like if you shine a light on a man and then with the same light with a woman, I think there needs to be more light that should be given to women to get that recognition out there. It's I think equality does not just shining both genders or all genders at the same light, but giving ample and giving that right light for other people to shine more and get that recognition.
Sure, thank you. I think you answered the next question I wanted to ask you. And that was exactly to ask you what exactly we can do as a community to make women safer, you know, and also project their voice. And I think you answered that perfectly. So let me switch to Stella. So Stella, hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. So from your lens, can you give us an overview of, the state of women participation in OSM activity, given your background?
Sure, I can try. The state of women participation in the OpenstreetMap community. First, maybe I want to break down what participation might entail. Is that sometimes when we say participation, we sometimes may end up just thinking it's just the contributors, mappers, people who sit and do the mapping. But the OSM ecosystem has a very large or a diverse array of work that is done to make this ecosystem stable and moving. So there are leaders. There are quite a number of boards across different continents and across, the different hierarchies of governance within the OSM itself. We have publishers, people who are there to do research and write and, document information about these kinds of work, OpenstreetMap work. We have the mappers themselves, the contributors. And then we also have the environments that are being studied. I would like to call those also OSM, part of OSM communities, because there are environments from which we collect the data. So even women and girls in those communities could potentially be part of this OSM environment or community. I would say, of course, there is no record of like the statistics themselves of the gender, the gender numbers on OSM, because on our registrations and most of our participations, we've made gender a neutral component in OSM. But of course, through papers, it's like below 4% of women participation. And it's from that kind of background, I think, that programs like Everywhere She Maps notice this kind of challenge, and then believe that there is need to increase leadership programs and increase the number of women leaders in the OSM environment. There is need to increase the data mapping in geospatial activities that invest in women livelihood, in security, in power generation, in prosperity, in innovation. Yeah, there is need for capacity building. That means add to the innovation skills of the various mappers there. So the participation is still low for women generally and conceptually, I believe. And there is still, probably I could outline the reasons as to why some of that really happens. Just like to add on some of Miko's points where he says, men have the ability to do the shameless self-promos that women don't have or never take an initiative to do. And we cannot blame women for that, for not coming out and giving those some shameless self-promos. We can probably do more encouragement, but also we have to keep in the hindsight also there is like the structural, barriers that already exist, especially when it comes to STEM and women involvement. That's a structural barrier, and it comes way down from like way back in kindergarten and society values and nurturing of a girl child. These are like inherent demographic divides, between women and men in participation. So probably the introduction of communities and how communities introduce OSM to the different members is also how women might adapt their contributions to such. So if you introduce the environment as more of a STEM inclined work and not as probably a social science and stuff like that, you might find that very few might, come up or might be scared to do that kind of work. There is also imposter syndrome is also, I think, another, limitation. And it's not only just women, also men do suffer from imposter. But for the women component, yeah, like Miko talked about condescending behavior. And so women might not want to tolerate that kind of shame in behavior. And if someone does not have that rigor to speak against that or to call out such behavior, you might find that if a girl or a woman has been, faces collision with such condescending behavior or condescending personalities, they will be pushed, they will get a negative mindset, and then they will lay back their contributions. We cannot forget the workload that women do have. Women do not only cater for, let's say, OSM needs in contributions. Women are multitaskers. They have all other things to think about. In this case, we think about not just even if there are girl children, I mean, you can watch most of the stories that youth mappers do right on their blogs. They try to incorporate some of their social lifestyle in some of these things. And that includes the kind of work these women do, the limitations that these other work burdens build onto them to be able to be perfect contributors or to increase in number in these contributions. And yeah, I could also speak to the, is it a perception? Yeah, maybe that the self-bias that automatically men or women would sit there and imagine that they cannot they are unable, that perceived inability to do some of the activities within the OSM. And in this component, most of the time we've talked about field work, but it's in this realization that it's not only field work, it's also in some of the technical aspects of the OSM work, maintaining the database, building the database, contributing, to the program's development of that component. So women end up getting limited to just a few, aspects of work. And, it's probably a perception, mostly a perception that then that's where they belong and that's what they should do. I think also another one that I found out while I was doing my master's program was I would call it the mansplaining habit. And that is within the OSM tag ontology, where men kind of want to debate most of the women. We know that from the beginning or the start of the OSM building and most of the work, we believe that there were lesser women contributions and spaces, as we may agree, or data in the OSM. And then it became an initiative to build some of that through the Open Everywhere She Maps program and other women positive discriminating programs in the OSM environment. But then you find out that now there is a whole protocol for these tags and these new features to be debated upon before they're actually included in the database. There is need of a leeway to be able to match up some of those contributions. Women need to have their affirmative action on some of these things and avoid we take away this mansplaining. Thank you. Over.
Sure. Thank you for your contribution. I think you have so much packed up in your chest, and we'll give you all the time to explore and share your thoughts on other issues. Thank you. Can we hear from Jacqueline what her thoughts are? And then we'll have another round of questions. I see a lot of follow-up questions in the pop-up box, and I would have time to ask and seek your opinions on that. Jacqueline.
Yes, thank you.
Great. A lot has been said. Yes. A lot has been said, yet we still have time to hear your opinions. Share with us what has been, the state of women participation from your angle, from your background.
In Brazil, for example, the most used are men. This is very, very challenging for me, for others maps, because why the women don't participate in the community? Why? It's very, very question. I try understand reality out there, because in the Latin America is several groups and girls participating, but in the Brazil is most are using men in community. It's very, very hard for me, for others girls participating, because no is reason specific for this. But I invite new users, new girls. I don't feel motivation participating. I don't know, because it's important conversation for the girls, for conversation for understanding their reality. Is in the moment I in my group conversation others girls, conversation others groups, and there are in my country the girls groups, and I conversation the girls groups, the cartography, for understanding reality, because others girls I don't feel motivated participating. And no, I don't know yes the question, but I try understanding all day. It's very, very hard for me. It's very question, and I research all day, and I think in my experience is necessary more conversation, other girls for understanding reality.
Okay. So quickly. So beyond the need to create a safe space for conversation, is there any other initiative underway, or perhaps anything your community can do to create an opportunity for their voices to be heard louder than just creating, a safe space for them to have a conversation?
Yes, yes. I my group create the space. I know begin, yes, but I create the space for listening the others girls about this, listening, working in make map the others girls for in the sense the why that really.
Okay. All right. So beyond you, are there other institutions who are also doing something similar around the OSM community? Because I want to think there are other people who might share your opinion and want to do more to make it easier for young ladies and women to participate. Do you know of any other initiatives or community doing the same thing?
Yes, social media is helping this moment. The conversation others people in Latin American about it for understanding the reality in other countries, principal in Latin America, for conversations with my in the last year monetary OpenstreetMap, I conversation about the reality in my country, conversation others community in the Africa for understand the reality in other cultures. In is hard, but I conversation with people for understand begin the new working with girls and my I don't know. In this moment, I conversation and working with girls here.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your thoughts. At least if 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 I should summarize everything you said, Jacqueline, I know very well you are creating a safe space for young girls and women to have a place to run to and have solace in their attempts to make it in the OSM community. But I'm also interested in what Stella also said about the Let a Girls Map campaign by Youth Mappers and other communities she represents. So Stella, like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which have actual timelines expected to realize a result, I want to find out, is there any timeline backed with actionable and measurable activities that your outfit has to make sure we empower women and achieve gender parity in the OSM community?
Oh, sure. From the Youth Mappers angle and point of work, yes, there is. Because everywhere she maps is entirely built upon fulfilling and satisfying SDG 5, but also spread it across the rest of the 16 Sustainable Development Goals. So for each and every target that is in there is the work and the projects that we cultivate to ensure that for example, mapping power and how that improves livelihood. Quite a number of projects have been done across Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Uganda, mapping informal settlements, and many more are coming, mapping water, mapping electricity, which is power, in health, gender health components, and all those are tailored to fulfilling the SDG 5 measured targets. We're not recreating them, we're just contributing to those. And a lot of documentation, if you read or if you've had access to the recent publication of Open Mapping in the SDG series, you're able to track and see how much they females and males within the youth mappers environment have been actually able to build to some of those targets through their project work.
So quickly,
Yeah,
with reference to time, hello?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
No, sorry, I had issues with my internet. So with reference to timeline, say in the next 5 years or 10 years, what does the Let the Girls Map campaign seek to achieve with reference to women empowerment?
I think I believe as an overall program, first is we have recognized that limitation or the underrepresentation and geared towards or based off the three major components, and that is leadership, mapping geospatial data and making this data available or use it to invest in women and girl child, programs, and also capacity building. So in the next 5 years is basically to double and increase that kind of participation. Currently, Youth Mappers has up to 40% women contributions, which is way above the overall OSM representation. And also when you look at the what I talked about as the structural barrier of, women diffusion with STEM, it's way above. I look at myself in my undergrad class, we were just 7 girls out of 45 students. So you can see like there is that big leap in that initiative to bring on more girls. So means, and this is what we're going to continue doing and build more, because the more the girls are empowered, then probably the bigger way they would be able to take up spaces in some of, or demand for them, when they are not given to them.
Sure, thank you very much. How about you, Nico?
I'm okay. How about you? No, just kidding. Okay. So similarly, like the Everywhere She Maps program has been a big inspiration for me, especially working at the humanitarian OpenstreetMap team, to develop She Leads and She Inspires. So it's an all-women training program that we provide at the Open Mapping Hub Asia Pacific. We train them on basic OpenstreetMap skills, leadership, advocacy, communication, and building that confidence for women. In the first year, we tried doing an all-women crew, like all 100 women champions, all trainers, all mentors to be women. So I'm really at the backside, looking over, but really not very much involving. But this year, we acknowledge and getting to talk to the champions that we were able to work with, getting to know their sentiments, that there is still an important role also as well for men or allied men who are advocating for women empowerment to be part of the program, because as we all know, who are in power right now. So we can really divert and go away from who is currently in the situation that in power, but we would like to look at the approach that what if we involve advocating men who are empowering women into the program and see how it goes for this coming year. So this coming year, we're targeting 150 champions or women from 25 different countries in Asia Pacific, and hopefully we could scale it all over the world. So kudos to Everywhere She Maps. It has been a big inspiration for me. I think I'd like to add for She Leads, She Inspires, we're targeting that a percentage of these women or to work together to produce projects in different countries out of the program. So it's not just a training program, but it gives an opportunity for women in and out of school to try out and test a mapping project on OpenstreetMap or something, or build that confidence, and then to talk to stakeholders, to email big time companies or NGOs, etc. Because I feel that only through experience you get to remove that nervousness, that anxiety when you do those kind of stuff. So even if I email Miss Arnali something, I still have that anxiety of did I complete everything that. So these things, it needs to get out of the system, build that confidence, and hopefully I could get to work with in Africa and in Brazil and Latin America through this, and And I see that these kinds of programs contribute to the goal of empowering women, ensuring that there's equality. But I would like to also take note here that the women, the numbers that we have right now for women, these are cisgendered women, and there are also trans women that are coming to the program, and we should welcome them. We should accept. We should provide a safe and nurturing space for them, because if women, I'm not saying but I'm thinking that if women are experiencing so much already in the current system, what if more for trans women? And I think we should also still give them that opportunity and chance in these programs in the future.
Great, thank you very much, Nico. But now that you brought in the issues of inclusivity, do you have, share with us any dedicated program to, target minorities, trans, and not mix them up with, the subject of women and gender? Do you have any other thing like that that you actually focus?
I feel the term target is kind of very makes things very specific. I don't have anything to say about the target, but I feel that the Youth Mappers program, the Everywhere She Maps, it provides a very wide and broad embrace onto these different types of groups and linking it into gender. I think I feel there's a need to improve how we package so that the target communities, or target more targeted, more vulnerable communities, indigenous groups, etc., could have that opportunity to get linked. So I feel like Everywhere She Maps, She Inspires, and other programs right now that target a specific population, it's dedicated towards that population, but it's actually a wider reach, that it captures a wider reach towards the end. Stella, maybe you could provide. I'm begin to pan.
No, I think, pardon us, Stella has to run. She has another meeting. I don't know whether she wants to give a last word before she runs off.
Oh, sure. I can just give one last remark. First and foremost, so grateful to be here and share with our community. It's been so long since I participated. Yeah, it's been so long, and I am so glad that I am starting to come back. But just like Miko said, I think my last notes to increasing women participation, first and foremost, for the education group that disagrees that there is no gender disparity in OSM contribution, I also disagree, because there is one. And when you look at most of the participating communities, I think that's where we can begin, because using OSM usernames, we cannot find that. But through the communities, we can be able to, differentiate and tell the differences in the numbers and gender. And that's with leadership, governance, contributions, and maybe further we can explore with edits somehow to an extent. And we need to first recognize that need. If nobody is there to recognize that need, maybe we should create a movement and start to call them out to recognize that need. I have a few of them on my fingertips, and then we need to encourage them to deliberately create those spaces for women. It has to be a deliberate move. And then, of course, there are other institutions to learn from, or other programs to learn from, like Everywhere She Maps, and we're here to help. So thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Sure. Nice having you on board. Enjoy your day. Great. I think she hopped off. So last round of questions, and I hope we would have final thoughts on everything we've done. So it's interesting hearing the backgrounds of Nico, Jacqueline, and Stella about the state of women participation from their backgrounds. And then some of the issues discussed here are not so different from what I experienced in Ghana with the various Youth Mappers communities and the OSM communities I also engage with. But having said it all, I want to find out from the two of them, what do you want to see in a year regarding female participation in the OpenstreetMap community? Let's project in 1 year. What exactly is your projection? Nico, what do you want to see? Jacqueline, what do you hope for and aspire for within the OSM community when it comes to women participation?
Yes. The big question. And it's important, it's powerful, the girl participation in OpenstreetMap in the moment in the conversation, I listening, I understand the others' reality. So I think that it's important to empower the girls. Speaking about the empowered participation of the OpenstreetMap, they learn in the other groups in the girls' participation, and they speak about this in my country. Thank you.
Go girl participation. Sure. How are you, Nico?
Okay. I think there's a difference for me with my expectation in 1 year and maybe what I dream of, especially in women engagement in OpenstreetMap. I know there would be a longer period for this, but hopefully, I would want to target maybe that there's the condescension in how people talk with each other in the OSM community would be to completely remove it. Like women can voice out their thoughts not without being afraid of being replied differently or something like that. In a span of 1 year, what I would want to expect and I really want to do, I would want to have more trans women mappers, very proud trans women mappers in the ecosystem. Because like I would bank on what Arnali always has been said, that a complete map would be a map that's very inclusive and diverse. I feel that women and trans women would be able to share a different perspective, a different POIs, different data onto OSM, making it more comprehensive, more diverse, reaching out to more wider needs in the future.
Certainly, if we all put our hands together to the wheel and shoulders, we'll certainly make it work. I feel women have more to offer than just being in the background. I see women occupy a lot of great positions, and also truly on this channel, Marcella, who have done so much within the community and can't understand why systemic barriers and etc. makes it difficult for these same women to also come out in other communities and also prove themselves as productive members of the community. So thank you very much for, I think it's top of the hour. And so thank you again for your time. I'm still giving a minute or two to see if there will be further questions from the audience. If not, then perhaps we may want to wrap up and bring the panel discussion to an end. It's been a great time meeting you for the first time, Nico and Jacqueline, and I think I've enjoyed the conversations. I think it's been great learning from your background, the great things you are doing for the CIS community, same as Jacqueline for the Brazilian community as well. And these are a few expectations some participants want to see in the coming year when it comes to women empowerment within the OSM community. So just a couple of them. So pardon me if I butcher your name. Chismo says, I want to see women in great numbers in every aspect of the OSM community. I agree with you, Chismo. I want to even see more than that. Kwame, women have more to offer and not just in the background. I surely agree. I think you need a microphone to magnify and amplify what you said, especially within the tech industry. That is so true. Nico again, okay, so that's about that. Right, so I think there isn't much. I've not seen any other. Thank you all for making the time. The future is female. So agree, Nico. Thank you all for making the time. I've seen so familiar faces in the name. Pardon me if I don't call out your name, but I've seen so many familiar faces and it's been great having you on board. I hope that in the next panel discussion for the working group, I will see you all in your numbers and even more. Come share your experiences with us and let's make the OSM community better, safer, and more improved for everyone. So without much, I hand over the microphone to the host, Benedicta, and then we can wrap it up for the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, Miko. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I mean, it's really been very interactive, it's sparkling. I wish this conversation could go and on. But please, if you have any questions, if you want to continue the conversation, your feedback to this webinar or panel discussion is very, very important to us. Please kindly give us a feedback and a comment, or anything you think you can improve on. In the link is being put in the chat. Just give us your feedback, and we will very much appreciate it. So before we all hop off, our next webinar would be on trust in data with the OpenstreetMap. So like the reputation of open mapping data, examining the governance, privacy, and trust, which will happen next month on the 21st of April. Please do well to register and also join this session for us to learn more about open data, its privacy, and if our government or other institutions can or should really trust this data, because there have been a lot of questions surrounding it. So please do well to join, register, and join, and also share with your friends. To join the conversation. Please don't forget your feedback is very important. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. It's been really amazing with you. And you can also rewatch it again on our YouTube channels. YouTube hot.osm.org. So thank you very much and enjoy your morning, afternoon, evening. Ciao, 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 ciao. Thank you. Annalie, thank you for the text. Thank you everyone who has joined. The future is indeed a female.